So proud of you for volunteering, Marilyn. Thank you.
I don't think I volunteered. I was railroaded. But you know what? Funny you should mention that, because I was sitting down with my notebooks and I was writing all these notes of what I'm going to say and stuff. And I kept kind of going all over the board, which is my personality. And then I thought, Kate will tell you that I'm lying if I tell you I go through this process, because I don't. I walk in and I wing it. So I'm going to wing it this morning, because that's the only way I know how to do something. So that's the truth. So, you know, I was thinking too about, you know, I've had great success with my little farming area. And it's not because I'm the best agent. It has nothing to do with that. It's just connecting with people. And so I think winging it really works for me, because I walk in and I try to talk about, you know, learn about them. And, you know, if they feel like they can trust you, talk to you, connect to you, that really is what gets you the job. So when I was brand new, I'd go up against agents who I knew I'd never get it. And before I knew it, they were ready to sign papers. In fact, I went up against somebody who was related to an agent, and I still got the deal. But anyway, and so that's, I think, the most important thing about, you know, farming an area is getting to where people think they know you. Because when they call me, they definitely think we're friends, they know me. A lot of times I don't know their names even, but I used to. When I got started, it was way back before computers. You know, I remember we got our first fax machine, and it was so fun. You know, you'd run out and try to get somewhere before that paper turned black, because the sun would ruin it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, we had little keyboards that anyway, I just don't want to date myself, but it really helped, because back then, I picked out these 275 houses. I picked out a geographic farm. There's all kinds of farms you can do. Like you can pick school teachers or nurses or a lawyer that handles, you know, wills and trusts, or, you know, pick any kind of farm you want. But for me, the only one that really worked was a geographic farm, where I picked a neighborhood, and then I tried to do business in that neighborhood. If there was an electrician in the neighborhood, I hired him. If somebody wanted their lawn done, I referred them to the guy in the neighborhood who did it. You know, I tried to keep it all within that little area, and I lived there too. And I still live there on the fringe of it. I'm still in the middle of it. But anyway, without a computer and 275 houses, I'd sit and write the envelopes. I would address 275 envelopes, and I would create my own little flyer, which I brought a bunch of them in here. But then I would mail those, or sometimes I didn't have enough money for postage, so I would deliver them door to door. And I got to know people that way. And I could drive down the street and go, Tompkins, Hopkins, Jones, Williams. I could name everybody on the street, 275 of them. I memorized them. So when someone would call me, and then without a computer, I'd go, oh, Williams, you live at 7144 Lowell. I know you have that pretty gray house. You know, I memorized those places, and it meant a lot. So I think whatever you're gonna work, you have to really devote yourself to it and really know it, own that area that you're gonna do. Don't just think you're gonna send out a postcard and not put your effort and energy into it, because they do expect you to be good. They expect you to know the market, know how to price it. You know, it's easy to be lazy about it, which I have been from time to time, and I've lost a listing because I got lazy and I didn't know the value. So you still have to work it all the time, but one of my goals was always, you know, I was 34 when I started farming, and I remember, because at 34, I had a boss who was always giving me hell, and I had great mentors like Scotty Broderick. Yeah. But people gave me trouble about not owning real estate, not investing money for retirement, so I kind of went on a plan. And, you know, the long-term plan of where I would be when I retired. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Whoops, nope, not a customer. Anyway, I did reach those goals like 10 years ahead of time. So, you know, it really works. If you set out a long-term plan and you live by it, you can get there. So, Anyway, I did the things that I've consistently done in my neighborhood, other than to know the neighborhood. I also did things like the school has once a year a fun run, and that's their big fundraiser. So I called them and I said, I want to be the sponsor. I want my name on that big flag that you put out in the schoolyard, my name only. How much is it going to cost me? I don't care. And they said $1,000, and I remember one year I said, okay, I'll send you a check, $2,500 tomorrow. I want my name everywhere. And I got it, and it worked. And then somebody who was in real estate got on the head of the PTA and knocked me out. And they never had a sponsor after that. They lost so much money. So, you know, I'm back at it, you know, so sponsoring them. And I do a lot at my church. It's in my neighborhood. So anyway, the people who call me, I've sold them 4 and 5 times. I'm looking at last year, and what I sold last year that's outside of my farm area, but it started in my farm area. My biggest and best customer, these guys that flip houses, they came and they looked at one of my listings, and they didn't buy it, but they left their card there. And my mother and I had loaned a few people some money, and so I read about it, and they call that hard money lending. I just learned the term, right? Have you all heard that term? Yeah, I was the last one to hear it, I guess, but, well, anyway, so I called these guys. I knew they weren't gonna buy it, but I left them this long message, and I felt funny saying, I do hard money loans, but at the end of the call, I said, oh, and by the way, I do hard money loans. They called me back in 30 seconds. And we have enjoyed a fantastic relationship. I do all of their Johnson County listings. I don't know how many I did last year, probably 15, a lot, you know, the bulk of my business. I don't sell them the houses. They go buy it using their little postcards. They get the house, and they basically, I might walk through it and help them, you know, design it or whatever, and tell them what they're gonna get on a resale value. But then they call me when it's ready to go, and it's my listing. So that has turned out to be a great, and the other customer, who's a big customer of mine, she's an investor. I got her the same way. She looked at one of my listings, and she was not with an agent, and I called her, and she's now my customer. She has all of her business with me. She probably did 6 deals with me last year. That's a lot. So that's more than half of my business where I didn't have to make a phone call, I didn't have to do anything. In my farm area, the only thing I've done for a lot of years is give them their annual calendar, and I order, and this year I paid attention to it, and instead of just buying whatever was out there, I bought a calendar that's all birds. It's amazing how many people are bird people, and I got so many phone calls thanking me for this beautiful calendar. It was 99 cents, you know, and I had it hand delivered. It cost me a couple $100 to hire neighborhood kids to deliver them. I also do a flag, and I write something about, you know, our military, you know, thanks to the military and so forth in those flags. Those are the 2 things I never, you know, neglect to do, is give those 2 things out. I still work my farm area, but I don't mail flyers and all that. Now, when my percentage of the market starts to slip, then I'll do a flyer or 2, and I get right back up at the top. You know, they're like, oh, you're still out there. So, you know, I've been doing it for so long, they probably think I'm dead or retired by now. But I was young when I started. And Kate's been with me almost 20 years.
Oh my God.
And I can't get rid of Kate, because about the first question everybody asks me is, how's Kate? Kate's still with you? You know, if I say she's gone, they're probably gonna move and go find her. So I gotta be careful about that. I love doing farming. I hate dealing with houses out of my area, and don't tell anybody I said that. They're talking to me about selling their house. But it's so easy to stick to my neighborhood where I know the values, and I've got the job. I walk in the door, and you know, most people call me and say, do you have time to sell our house? You know, would you have time to come look at it, or should we come to your office? You know, they're so nice. They're the best customers I have. And I've worked really hard for that business. I brought flyers that I sent. I want to look at a couple of other things.
Marilyn, give them the example when you were walking right after the flood.
Oh, when
When I
it,
met that one lady who did not buy from you, bought your listing.
yeah, well, you know, after we had that flood, in July or whatever it was, I did go through the neighborhood and I went up to, I'd see people in their yard, I didn't have to go to their door. So this one woman in particular bought my listing, and I met her, like at the inspection or something. I stopped by and there she was, so I had met her. So anyway, she was doing something in the yard and I stopped by and I started talking to her. She was not friendly at all. And I didn't know why she didn't like me, but anyway, so I just kept talking to her and I offered to help her and she let me. And then pretty soon she told me that her basement had flooded and she was really mad and she had talked to a lawyer. And I said, well, I don't, you gotta do what you gotta do. I understand, I'm so sorry, And I just stayed there until, I did all I could do and I felt terrible. And she was very nice when I left, and she did not pursue legal action, but I visited a lot of people that day that I thought might have gotten water in their basements, because I did. I never get water in my basement, and my basement flooded that day. And I just thought, I had sold so many houses in the neighborhood, and I was worried, if they get flooded, they're mad at us, right? So you want to go over and see if you can do anything. So. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So kind of damage control. I really didn't set out with the idea of I was going to go visit people with flooding basements at all. I just saw that woman and I thought, I'm going to say hello. So she forgets about her agent, because now I'm her agent, right? She doesn't know it yet, but I'm her agent. And you know what? I am her agent. She's already referred somebody to me. So, I try to help people or, follow up and if a house has a flooding bad basement, I try to get the seller to tell the truth that, we don't sell on perfect houses. So anyway, the woman who sold that house was a great person.